Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. Today I'm sitting down with Peter from Orcfax, which are building an Oracle solution on Cardano. So great to have Peter here to have a chat about, first off, what the project is, and then what Oracles are, and a little bit about where they are now and what's coming in the future. Peter, thanks very much for coming on. I appreciate your time.
Likewise, Paul. Thanks for having us.
So jumping straight into it, and anyone watching this interested in certain aspects, I will have timestamps down below if you want to go to them, but we'll give a good overview here, I think, anyway. So can you give a quick introduction to yourself, and then maybe we'll get into what Orcfax is and where it is right now?
Cool. Yeah. Well, my name is Peter Van Garderen. I live in Vancouver, Canada. My background professionally is as a digital archivist. I'm trained in archival science, and I've been building digital archives management systems for the past 20 years for governments and NGOs and extra governmental organizations. And archivists and digital archive systems are very much focused on record accuracy and authenticity. And so being a blockchain enthusiast, I paid very close attention to something called the Oracle problem, which is figuring out how to take a real world data and put it on chain for smart contracts to use, but still guarantee its authenticity and accuracy. So I very much see oracles as another type of record keeping archiving system that I'm already familiar with. And so the last year and a half, I entered the Cardano space. I got some catalyst funding to launch the Orcfax project. Orcfax is the name of the Oracle project. And yeah, we've been in heavy R&D for the last year, especially post Vassal, when the Plutus version 2 allowed for reference inputs. It really made oracles practical in Cardano. So we've been working hard the last year to launch our platform, and we're just hours away from actually launching an ADA USD mainnet feed. We're just waiting for that darn old Plutus indexer to update. Yeah, we're very excited about that. That'll be our first product. So reporting, this is a real world fact. People are buying and selling ADA for USD all over the place on exchanges. Each time that happens, an order goes into the order book, and those exchanges end up with an average of the average price per second, and they post those on APIs, and we grab that primary data from centralized exchanges with their own order books and derive a mean value and post it on chain as ADA USD, and we've got and that value is going to be used by smart contracts for a variety of different DeFi products. A simple one to get your mind around is like a take profit or a stop loss order, where you might have a smart contract waiting for a change in price, and then an oracle comes and says, here's the price, it's changed, and the data we're giving you is authentic and accurate. You can trust it to go ahead and trigger your smart contract now. And that's what an oracle does. That's a very basic example. We'll be adding other price feeds and other products to Orcfax as we go, but we're launching with the ADA USD price feed.
Nice. Yeah, I suppose that's the most obvious one to get out there first. And by the time this video goes out public, the feed probably will be live already. So I can put a link to that below for anyone who wants to check that out. And will that be constantly updated, or how often would something like that update?
Yeah, so this is a free price feed, by the way. We're offering this feed for free for the next 12 months, and then we'll see after that. We are going to work on like a pay per access kind of model for the first user access, and then once that's posted on chain, the data is available for free to everybody afterwards. But for the next 12 months, all the feeds that we're putting up for free to encourage widespread use and figure out how developers want to use our products, and also incentivize them to come and integrate their products with Oracle feeds. And so, yeah, that's what we're moving towards.
Yeah,
sorry?
And there is a cost, I suppose, associated with this, because every time you update the price feed, there's a transaction fee.
Right. And your question was how often, right? So what we're doing currently is that free price feed is being published once an hour, and so it's a 1 hour heartbeat. But what we are also adding is a 1% deviation model, which means that if the price happens to change within that 1 hour period by 1% up or down, we will post that price as well. And then we also have on-demand capabilities, so somebody could ask for that price anywhere in between that hour if they wish. We've been running it on pre-prod for 35 days. Within the hour, there's not necessarily a lot of changes between the ADA price, but of course, when spikes happen and we get good SEC news like we did today, we see those candles jump, and so we want the Oracle to be as responsive as possible to those changes.
Yeah, when we get news, just as we're recording now, the Grayscale news came out that they won their case against the SEC, just for anyone wondering about the reference. So them kind of things don't happen all the time, but when they do, there's generally a big price movement, either up or down. So it's good to hear that there will be extra updates, I suppose, if they're needed. You've kind of covered on what an oracle is, basically taking data from outside the blockchain and posting it on chain, but posting it in a verifiable way that people know the data is real. Why would projects not use or go to the source themselves? So you're going to the exchanges and getting the data and then posting it online. Why wouldn't projects do that? Or why would they need an oracle to do that?
Yeah, what an oracle provides to DeFi products and platforms is a guarantee of authenticity and credibility to their users. And so currently what we're seeing, because of simply the lack of good oracle feeds, which is part of a more maturing blockchain space, and that's happening now in our space, including with the introduction of our feeds, is up until now, projects have been collecting their own data from APIs, and in the absence of a usable oracle feed. But what that means is they're asking their users to trust that the data that they're taking from one place and inserting it into a smart contract and having fairly significant financial consequences in most cases, asking the users to say, trust us, we grabbed this data from this API, this is what it said, and we put it on chain. So what oracles are doing, it's not like oracles have access to data that nobody else has. What oracles are doing is taking data and verifying its authenticity and accuracy and formatting it in such a way that it becomes very reusable and repurposable for smart contracts. So it's value added on top of data. And to say this data is true, it's accurate, it's authentic, you can trust it. And that's the guarantees that oracles give, and that's critical for true decentralization. And again, the way we gather our data, we can talk about that a little bit more as well, is done in a decentralized fashion so that we can truly create quote unquote trustless data feeds where you no longer have to trust a third party, including Orcfax, including the API provider, including the DeFi platform. We provide full traceability from data collection to validation to publishing to archiving to allow you to trust but verify that data and do it in a very decentralized way. I know we can talk about that data gathering in a second, but that's the value out of an oracle. The data exists and anybody can cut and paste that data. What oracles do is give you authenticity, accuracy, veracity degrees, guarantees, and that's, again, a critical part of DeFi. I think now that our product is available on Cardano mainnet very shortly, I think we'll start seeing more and more pressure from users of different platforms to questioning their platform. Like, where are you getting your data from? Why aren't you using one of these oracle feeds? How can we trust the data? You're telling us this data is, the products we're using on your platform are dependent on the data you're telling us we should trust. So it really comes back to this idea of trust. Decentralization is all about moving things towards the trustless end of the scale, and to figure out more and more ways to decentralize everything, including how we gather and verify data.
Yeah, I suppose DeFi on Cardano, it's still really in its infancy compared to what's been going on outside of it, or maybe on other chains that have had it for a while longer. So I think we are getting there, but up to this point, and even you mentioned earlier before the Vassal hard fork, there was a lot of things that were needed for an oracle to actually be really usable and not be completely inefficient, because before that you would have had to spend the UTXO every time you wanted to read it. But now things are a lot easier. But for yourselves, how does Orcfax work? Is it the same as some of the other ones, or how does that work? And with the node network, just for people who would be unfamiliar with it, and can anybody get involved to be a part of the network?
Yeah, we will be running an incentivized validator node network starting in November. Currently, we're using a federated model. So for Orcfax, really, I mean, as an archivist, I studied the Oracle problem quite closely. I mean, Chainlink was probably the first big platform that most people are familiar with in the Ethereum space, but there's pretty much every L1 these days has 1 or 2 or 3 or more Oracle platforms on it. I studied them all quite closely and was interested as an archivist. I have a trained eye to look for where documents could be manipulated, where red flags could arise anywhere in the flow of creating, capturing, storing, and archiving documents. And again, Oracle data is no different from that kind of workflow and that kind of record keeping requirement. So one of the very first things I have an issue with is single source data. So this idea that if we're asking an Oracle to be the veracity check on where data comes from, and that data is only coming from one single API, whether that's Google BigQuery or some bank's API to tell you what the balance is in the bank account, that's only one source of truth. And we have what we call the triangulation principle, which means that for any kind of data point that we gather, we do it from at least 3 or more different independent primary data sources. And by primary, I mean like where it's not reposting data from somewhere else. It is an agent that has access to real world primary data. And again, the centralized exchanges are a good example of that, the ones that have open order book APIs. But the same principle could apply to something like sports scores. So you could say, well, what was the result in Manchester United Chelsea yesterday? And you can imagine all kinds of like fantasy league dApps and betting dApps, and those exist already. But again, you could take that sports result and take it from a single API provider, the biggest one in the sports world being Opta, and then now you're trusting Opta. So what we want to do instead is like have multiple primary data sources, including for that sports event, for example. So you might take Opta as one of the 3+ data sources, but then you could also take, we're very interested in crowdsourcing real world data. So taking authenticated certified media images from people in the crowd, taking pictures of the scoreboard. News agencies will report sports scores. So those are a good example of where the results will come from more than one place. Again, triangulation. So for us we feel we're very principled about this because there's a much longer play for oracles that I believe in. And so I believe it's very important to get the formula right and to get the foundation right, which includes not compromising on this triangulation principle. And so we collect data from 3 or more sources, and then we use multiple collectors to collect those data from 3 or more sources. So currently we're using a federated data collector network, which all that means is that the network is being run by Orcfax. It's Orcfax controls those servers. And so currently we have 5+ nodes that each time we have a data collection event, they will go to those 3+ data sources to collect the data. Once they do, every node normalizes the data. I mean, they move it into a standardized format because, for example, with the APIs, all 3 service providers have different API responses. So we normalize, format that data into a standardized format. Then we calculate mean averages, and then we pass it around a validator pool to make sure everybody's seeing the same thing. If there's any anomalies along the way, as far as the data that's being reported, and there's too much divergence, then it raises a red flag and the data publication is halted. That will be extended to the point where at some point, when we're running a full decentralized validator node, which means that Orcfax is no longer controlling the collectors and nodes. We have independent parties acting as validator nodes, and their software will run and collect the data and bring it back to the pool. And if any of those nodes are issuing false or suspicious data, their stake will be slashed. So in order to run a node, it's pretty common type model in the validator node network type idea. You put up some stake and you use that to show that you're a good actor, that you're acting in good faith. And however, if your node doesn't act in good faith, then you will get your stake slashed and you will lose money. And that's a very strong incentive to participate honestly in a validator network. So that's, so collecting it from 3 or more sources, having 5 or more nodes actually validate that collection, and then randomly nominating one of those to publish on chain is a really strong way that we're improving the way I think we can the credibility and veracity of Oracle feeds. And what we're doing is we're capturing the log files every step of the way and making those accessible on a decentralized storage network called Arweave, which is similar to IPFS and Filecoin. And what that means is that people can go and verify the actual data collection. So what we capture in those audit log packages includes like the actual HTTP response coming from the APIs. So you have the raw response that we collected to begin with. We have the validation record that shows the calculations that were carried out over those results. And then we have the record of the data that went on chain in the Cardano transaction. And we have a variety of other JSON, LD, schema.org compliant metadata around that to make this record reusable beyond the Oracle publication. And essentially what we're doing is creating a large decentralized data lake of authenticated, validated facts, which is going to have a huge repurpose function once we go beyond price feeds and do more interesting Oracle feeds. And all of that's anchored in Cardano as the L1. So we're pretty excited about our long-term roadmap, but there's lots of things to solve in the short-term one first.
Nice. So hopefully that gives a good overview of how it all works. And one point to touch on is that DeFi is only one use case for oracles. You mentioned a few like sports. And at the minute, I suppose a lot of eyes are on DeFi because we haven't seen oracles being used that much outside of it. But in the future, I think it definitely will be a lot bigger of a use case, especially when you look at what can be faked now and fake news coming out and all sorts of stuff coming out, that when you can have verifiable sources like that are on chain, can't be changed, I think there definitely is a big use case for that in the future. And on the validator set, for say the likes of myself, I like to get involved with different networks. If I want to spin up a node or a validator when it comes out, I think you said November, that's just, I need to have the tech skills, I suppose, to run the server and then have the orc or the token as collateral, is it, or as my stake?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, mostly correct. So it'll be an incentivized test net, which means we'll be running with like our token is called FACT, F-A-C-T. And so we'll be running with test fact on that incentivized network, and you'll be staking with those test facts, but those will be mappable to real fact. That's why it's incentivized. At the end of the incentivized testnet period, you will be able to trade in your test fact for real fact. So you don't have to come up with the fact to begin with to participate in the ballot. You just have to participate. And we're trying to keep technical requirements as minimal as possible. For the incentivized testnet, we do expect that we will need people with a little bit of technical know-how to begin with, like basic Linux sysadmin, like being comfortable on a terminal CLI, for example. But then the end product at the end of the testnet, what we want is to bring it down to given people that want to participate as validator node operators, the ability to simply download a binary executable, stick it on a machine somewhere that has at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, plug it into an Ethernet cord, and move their fact tokens to it through a web GUI and start participating as a validator node. One of the key security requirements we have is that we expect all our validator nodes to be running the exact same software. If you're not running the exact same code as we are, it doesn't match our hash and our fingerprints, then we knock you off the network right away. We don't trust you. And all of that code is being issued then from Orcfax itself, which currently is a corporate entity out of the British Virgin Islands, and that will switch to a decentralized autonomous organization shortly after. That will then allow for that governance and overview. But yeah, to begin with, again, when we begin the incentivized test in November, we expect people with a little bit of technical know-how, but by the end of that, we want to encourage as many people as possible to run Orcfax validator nodes. This will just simply amplify our security model. If we can say there's now thousands of nodes around the world collecting the data on behalf of this network, pulling it in, validating it all together, the more nodes we have, the more secure our network will be, the more trustworthy the facts that we're publishing will be. And yeah, we start with price feeds and DeFi, but that is quite a large market in and of itself, and we're quite happy and excited to service that market. But as an archivist coming at the Oracle problem, I see it as something much more fundamental to help society get through a very strange and difficult time right now, where we have a lot of centralized power. We have a lot of mistrust in media and online content, a lot of disinformation, a lot of deep fakes, and the strongest counterbalance to that is going to be like human agent-based validation networks that are Sybil resistant, meaning Sybil resistant to state actors, but also to AI actors, so forth. So yeah, there's DeFi is the short-term playground right now, but I believe oracles have a huge role to play in modern society going forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. When you look at what AI can do now compared to what it could do 12 months ago, it's absolutely crazy to see how fast things are moving, and we can only guess what's going on behind closed doors and how advanced some of it actually is. So just before we go further into the token, actually, on partnerships, I know I seen ye announced one with Indigo, and Yam4, did you mention as well as another one?
Yeah, I think Yam4 and Indigo are the only two we've announced publicly so far. We are getting excited to announce a few more very soon. But that's the only two that we've gone out to public with. And yeah, we're very excited to work with them. They're both very innovative platforms. They both have great, really smart developers that are helping us better understand our requirements and the developer needs. And then we have at least 10 other projects that we're talking to at the moment about integrating our feeds, and also talking about new product ideas, like new product ideas that require a trusted Oracle feed, or sorry, a trustless Oracle. It's the same side. Trustless and trustless are just the same side of one coin as far as I'm concerned. But but those are the only two we've announced thus far.
Okay, I suppose it's important to have technical partners in the beginning to figure out how things can work, and to 100%. Make sure your own system is covering all the needs and all the security side of things too.
Yeah, I mean, just to interrupt. But yeah, that's already been happening as far as that. The interaction with those two collaborators and others as well has helped us improve our product prior to mainnet launch quite a bit, and we anticipate that will continue over the coming months. Myself and my team have a background in open source software development, agile software development. This is just the way we operate. Nothing's ever done. We're always working on the next release, the next version, but also making sure that the current version is robust, is solid, is tested, is functional. That's all part of how we operate, and my team and I have been doing this for a number of years now. So we're quite excited to apply this to the DeFi field.
Yeah, that's great. And just going back to the token then, so you guys had an ISPO a while back now, and I think them tokens you said are coming out soon. Do you want to just talk a bit about that and the actual token and utility for it in the network?
Super. Yeah. So our token is called FACT, FACT. And it's a utility token. What it allows, I mentioned earlier, the primary function is for stake-based validation in the validator network and for rewarding those validators. So if you do participate in the network and you participate as an honest participant, and then you will be rewarded. You will receive part of the rewards that are issued every publication event. And the other use for the token is for actually submitting publication requests. So if you are a DeFi dApp that says, I would like the ADA USD price right now, I don't want to wait another 30 minutes before your regular heartbeat updates it, then you can pay our fee and we will publish it on chain. And what you will get is a signed transaction datum that has signed in the sense that it has a security token with a minting policy that points it back to Orcfax, which then allows you to trust that signed transaction. But what it allows you to do as a developer, if you've paid for it, is you can take that signed Orcfax transaction with that verified datum in it, and you can add it to the same block that your app is going to carry out its functions in, meaning that you essentially have a one block advantage to any other competitors for that certified data. Once you've paid for it and the transaction goes on chain, that datum is now a reference input. So the next block and afterwards is now available to all other smart contracts and apps on chain. We think that's a really fair model that we hope is going to allow for long-term sustainability. There's also lots of other models that we can support, such as like group purchases of on-demand feeds and so forth. Lots of things we're entertaining. So for paying for feeds, for staking, for rewarding, and then lastly, once we switch to a decentralized autonomous organization, the token will also be used in stake-based governance for voting for proposals and so forth. And that token, we made first accessible to ISPO participants a few months ago. We had a 6 months cliff on that schedule on that, and that's about to kick in on September 17th. So those ISPO participants will start receiving their first FACT token drop as of September 17th. And then we're also very excited now that we're looking for the next way to make our token more available to the community in as fair as way as possible, is that we've partnered with Wingriders to be the very first project to take advantage of their Launchpad, which allows for decentralized price discovery and fair participation from the community. As fair as we think you can, I think Launchpads offer, between ICOs and private token sales and stealth launches, we think the talking a lot to our own community and our own team, we believe the Launchpad option is the most fair and decentralized way to go about this. And that will introduce, I believe, 86 million of our FACT token, approximately 10% of our total supply will be introduced as part of that Launchpad. The other 10% was from the ISPO. And I should add that 50% of our tokenomics is actually reserved for validator rewards. So meaning we have this treasury, this reserve to keep subsidizing and paying our validators to collect and publish that data. That 50% treasury, we estimate, gives us about a 4 to 5 year runway to get the platform subsidized and on its own feet, to the point where the feeds are paying for themselves.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and timing of this, we booked this weeks ago, but the timing has worked out well for the Launchpad that it's coming out now. So I will leave a link to all the documentation or the press release on that down below for anyone to get all the specifics on it. But just on that, Wingriders haven't done it yet, and I haven't seen many details coming out on it. But will people have to hold the WRT token to get involved, or will there be open access?
I believe it's only, you can come in with the ADA token, and the WR token is involved in one way or another, but I haven't been the technical contact for the Launchpad, so I can't answer that affirmatively. But as far as I understand, you come in with your ADA, you get FACT in return. It's that simple. Okay. And yeah, no, Wingriders has kept this product stealth for quite a while, but they've been working on it for over 6 months. They've had a full security audit on the smart contracts. And as of this recording, I believe it was an hour or two before we recorded this call, Paul, that they actually announced it in their Discord that they're opening up their Launchpad. And I don't think they've said who it is yet, but that'll happen in the next 24 hours as well. So we're the first project to use it. Okay,
yeah, good timing all around. I'll have to try and catch up with the Wingriders team to hear all the latest on that one too. But anything else we haven't covered, maybe on yourselves and oracles in general, or that we should have maybe covered in this?
No, other than we're really excited to be part of the Cardano revolution. Like, I just came from Rare Evo conference in Denver. We talked to a lot of developers and community members there. we're all commiserating about building in a bear market, but we're also feeling very confident that the people that are still around building have the right intentions and the right motivations and are here to do something bigger than just, fill our bags. Filling bags is great. I'm not against that. Of course, we all like that. But at the end of the day, to me and to our project and to the people we've been talking to, this is about something bigger. It's about fulfilling the promise of decentralization. Disintermediating power at all these centralized structures in governance and finance and industry. The world can be a much better place if we bring power back to the edges. And Cardano blockchain and blockchain technology and Oracle technology is a path forward to that.
Yeah, I had a lot of FOMO sitting at home looking at my Twitter feed for Rare Evo. It really looked like a great conference, and I like the aspect of it being cross-chain too, that there was people from outside there, that you could see what's going on in other chains as well. I think it's always good to get perspective on what's happening. And just actually the final question is, will Orcfax just be Cardano, or will you branch out to other chains in the future too?
Orcfax will just be Cardano. We'll always be anchored in Cardano as the L1. I mean, because I keep getting asked this question, I wrote a blog post a few months ago, like 30 reasons why we're building on Cardano. And so, and because it gives us so many security degrees, the fact that it's truly the most decentralized L1 out there in the world right now. As an archivist and as a software engineer, I studied all my options for L1s quite closely, and I'm quite happy and satisfied to be in the Cardano space. I believe that we're a sleeping giant. I believe this blockchain will in fact be the #1 smart contract capable platform running global infrastructure 5 years from now. And so I feel quite happy with that decision. And so what that means is that as we publish real world data, they will be published to Cardano transactions. That provides that L1 trust guarantee. And then the fact that we're actually making our data schema.org JSON LD compliant means that it now has data reuses beyond Cardano. It has into other blockchains, into the Web 2 space, into the linked data space, into AI training, machine readable. It really opens the door, but fundamentally the trust anchor is always going to be Cardano. And I think that's really important and powerful. And to us, we're quite proud to be in the Cardano community and to talk about why Cardano is the right L1 solution going forward.
Great. I think that's probably a really good point to finish up on. And look, in maybe 2-3 months time, when the testnet is out and I'll hopefully have been able to participate in that, maybe we'll have a catch up then to see how things are going and dive a bit deeper into different aspects of what's going on at that time. So anyone watching, thanks for tuning in. Do share it out. Let people know what's going on with Orcfax, with Cardano, and with oracles in general. I think they could learn lots on how they work from this one. Subscribe if you're new. Leave questions down below. I will leave links to everything we talked about down below with the different press releases and also the socials where you can follow Peter and Orcfax to keep up to date on all the latest. Peter, thanks for your time. I do appreciate it.
Likewise. Super. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.